And maybe how did that change, if it changed, when you made it public?
I don't understand quite well. You mean if it changes, for talking about this publicly? You mean that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, the question begin with the idea. Let me tell you, I was at the hospital in the beginning of the process. I was at the hospital, and I was writing at the hospital. And what I did was to write a letter to my ex-wife. That time was my wife, Monica. I wrote a letter for her, and I sent it by email. So for me, that was a very difficult moment, because the confrontation of this story about my childhood was very complicated for me to talk about. But when I did that, I reread the letter, and I thought, this is a point of view, this is a voice for a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look that kind of when I can see the things from that point of view, it changes everything for me always, because I'm beginning to think as a writer. So from that moment, it was the process of writing a novel, and at the end of the process, it was the difficulty for me was the emotional process of grief, and that took me like 6 months of silence to get to the end of the process. But yes, it was difficult in different moments, but not when I was thinking as a writer, because when I'm thinking as a writer, I can like compartmentalize. I don't know how the word is in English. So,
Yeah, compartmentalize.
Yes, exactly.
That's fascinating. So it started as like a series of emails to Monica.
It began as a letter, yes.
Yeah.
That was the first. It wasn't the novel as it is now. It was a very personal stuff. But what I saw immediately is that it was a very intimate appeal to the reader, and I thought that's a way of being a writer. Maybe the not all the material is going to work, but I have to. If I want to tell this story, I can do it with another voice. This is the voice, a very intimate one. That and for me, the learning was about fragility. Because it wasn't. I learned a lot about fragility in the process. That's something maybe I have to say too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hi, I'm Rachel. I was wondering if you do disclose, or if you are willing to, how much of the book is true.
How much of the book is true? Okay. There's an invention. Sorry. There's a very particular invention that is a character, Bobo La Fragua.
Yeah.
That's all fiction about the character, not even the travel to Cuba is based on actual events. Let's say, and there's a female character that is based in a real person, but it's very fictionalized because I don't want her to feel hurt for the story, and that is this woman that works in the weather, like in the weather channel, a lover from the main character. But other than that, I think everything. It's a very complex question because for me, everything of what happens in the novel is true, and I think I work with my life material, with autobiographical material. But in the other hand, when you process the material, there's always fiction. It's always fictionalized, not the main events, but the process to compact them in scenes, for example, or the dialogues, or how people perceive themselves. Uh, I don't know how to put it. Monica, for example, she said she's not like that character, but she does not say that the things didn't happen. So it's quite difficult when you're working with real people, and this might not be the real people, but they are the real events.
Yeah, I think Ari and then Barbara. Ari.
Hi,
Sorry,
sorry. Hi, my name is Ari, and I was wondering because we all read it in English, so we unfortunately didn't read the actual words that you wrote. But I was wondering what the process was of getting the book translated, if you had say in who the translator was, like if you could choose someone who you knew would preserve the integrity, and what that was like.
okay. The translating process. Let me tell you that for me, it was a peculiar experience for two things. First one is I I don't speak or read English quite well, but I try. And in other languages, it's more difficult for me. So the book was first translated to French and Italian and Portuguese. So I was trying to understand some stuff when I was working with the translators. It was a quite painful process. But then when the work of translating came in to English version, it was a delight, and not just because I was understanding more about the process, but because Christina McSweeney is a wonderful. So working with her for me was a very creative process, and I understand. I think the process of working with her changes my idea of how I write, and I think that's something that a translator, a very powerful translator, can do in a writer. Because when I was working with Christina, she asked questions that I have never been asking to myself, and that was like making a workshop of how to write, how to write, and how to reread. I don't know how to put it. I love Christina's work, and I'm very grateful for she wanted to continue working with me because she translated more of my books. We're still in touch, and for me, she is my translator, and I hope she will want to be my translator for years and years. And one last thing is when we were working, she was more interested in how the word the words will sound in English than in the exact sense, not the meaning, but the sound of the words. And for me, it was wonderful because I'm coming from poetry. And what I think is the sound of words can translate more the feeling, the emotion. So when I noticed that she was working that way, it was for me like, this is the way.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Barbara. My question was basically the same thing or very similar. Yeah, it was about translation and if you felt like certain things got lost in it, but I think my question was kind of answered by the last portion of what you were talking about just now, where like you're more concerned about you like that Christina was thinking carefully about how things sounded rather than like making a direct translation. So that my question was answered. I don't know if someone else has something else to bring up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I was wondering what questions she was asking you that you hadn't like reflected on yourself.
Sorry, I can't hear that.
Oh yeah, it's okay. She's far from. She was wondering what questions Christina asked you, that you were excited about during the translation.
I'm sorry. If Christina asked me.
Yeah. What kinds of questions did Christina ask you?
Okay. What kind of questions Christina asked me? Some of them was about I'm using references, different materials, and I'm taking, for example, I'm working with Oscar Wilde text, and she asked me to the precise context where a paragraph in Oscar Wilde, what is the book and what was the context of the paragraph. Or she asked me, for example, about when I was telling something about the character seeing the mother in the hospital, and she asked questions like, where is he exactly? He's like standing or he's seated, to understand the distance and the texture of the sentence. And she asked me, for example, if some kind of words I was using were more colloquial or more like old. I use, for example, in some passages I use references to bolero and to scenes in the 40s and in the 50s when my mother was alive. So she asked me, for example, is this an old word, or is currently used to bring some words from England, more than English from England than the United States. This kind of stuff, like a very small questions for me, was delightful. And also, she consulted me if she can change some word because of the accent in the word. She wanted to to the phrase, the sentence in English sound like the rhythm in Spanish. So she wanted to change a word, and I almost always say yes.
Yeah. So because she was paying attention to that rhythm, like trying to translate the rhythm in addition to the meaning. Yeah. Rhythm.
Hi, I'm Ruby. I wanted to ask if you wrote the book chronologically as like we see the book now, or did you write it in different orders and then piece it together?
Sorry, I can hear you. Could you help me, please?
That's okay, yeah, she wanted to know, did you write the book in the order that we read it, or did you write it in a different chronological order and then change it?
Okay, mostly in the order it is written. Boy, I want to tell you some secrets about it. No, I was working in the first part, mostly in the first part, I was working at the hospital. So I was really working at the hospital. And the first part is very chronological, but the process for me to write is I'm very obsessive with style, and I do not write a novel and then like correct it. I work making corrections from the beginning almost every day, every 2 or 3 days, the other day. So it was like madness because I was rereading and rewriting a lot in the first part. Then it was a pause because my mother went out of the hospital, and in that process, I was traveling to Germany, and that part of Germany, uh, it's connected with the process when she was out of the hospital, and that's why the story was out of the hospital. But then she get back to the hospital, and then she died. And when she died, I wasn't able to go through the, the story. I was too sad. I was too emotional. And then I remember this anecdote from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who said that he, he has to kill a character, Aureliano Buendia. He didn't want to do it, so he was like going around the story, trying to not to kill his character, and he began to make the character make like small fishes go small fishes. Smaller. Um, and I was thinking I can't write about the death of my mother, but I can write about things um, around the death of my mother. And then I began to, to write different parts of the novel that are not like in the order. That that some small passages and the travel to Cuba because that's like my mind trying not to get into the novel, and that's the most fictionalized part of the novel because I did not want to go inside the story. Later on, I found the scene in my mind. I found the scene when of the last scene. I thought I want to. I didn't know then it was the last scene. I have this idea of uh, this scene has to be in the novel. So I put myself together and decide to go to a place in a small town near my house. Uh, a friend of mine let me stay in a small house alone. Uh, and the day I get there, I wrote that scene. That is the last one. And then I began to write other scenes from the last section. When I was looking to the end of the novel, I realized that that scene that I wrote the first day was final scene. So I reordered the last part of the novel and put that scene at the end. So there are a few changes, but it's in like waves, three great big waves.
Cool. Oh, I was just wondering if, like, over the course of writing it, if you ever went back to earlier parts that you had already written and kind of like changed them as like new events unfolded, or just as you like continued to reflect on everything that had happened.
Could you
I'm
hear?
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well,
I'll
I
repeat.
can hear
Yeah,
quite well.
so hard to hear back there. So she was asking, so you started writing it in the hospital with when your mother was in the hospital, and but then as events, you were writing about them, but your life was also happening. As events changed, did you go back to the earlier parts of the book and change it? I think I'm hopefully saying your question right.
Or
Yeah.
just change like how you, I don't know, presented it.
Yeah, did later events make you go back to early parts of the book and change how you looked at them?
Okay, I always change a lot of the prose, not of the events. And if I change the events, is almost that I take off materials, not to add materials, to change the like what happened. But I change a lot of the prose. Yes, and I'm very obsessive with some kind of stuff like adverbial questions. So and rhythm. And this is something I did several times in the book. You can see it in the book. Sometimes I'm working and I say I write something and then I come back to the that I wrote and in the process of rewrite I say I'm rewriting. There's a scene about the Berlin travel that I say now I am in this place and I say parentheses I don't know I said no I'm not really there I'm in a plane I'm rewriting this paragraph in a plane I I used to now I'm doing already because what I think is the process of writing is like an editing process, an endless editing process. So what I think is you're always rewriting, even in this moment. In some way, I'm rewriting. But um, if you say so, if you put this up front, I think is the process of writing is because it's endless. So what I try to do is that I'm I don't think a lot about to preserve the original idea, but like the process of writing is that it's a process. It's always moving, and for me it works that way. So yes, I change some stuff. Not the places of the material, not like the scenes, but the prose.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Drew. I was wondering, you mentioned that you're continuously rewriting, and I suppose you published this 10 years ago now. What would you kind of, if you would, what would you change now about it? And I suppose, how do you kind of commit yourself to sending it to your publisher at that last minute when you know you could always make more rewrites?
Of course, that's a great question. Thank you. Look, I have this like difficult process because I think two things that maybe are not in the same direction. Because one is for with this novel, for example, I have to read in out loud like yes out loud for a CD, the a university edited CD like 2 years ago, and I had to read the passages of the novel. And I was saying all the time to myself, uh, I'm very embarrassed because it's lousy prose. I hate it. I I don't know how I publish give it to the public because of the prose, not because of the story. But at the same time, I know this is no longer my novel. This is an object that is there, and in my mind, sometimes I correct it and rewrite it, but not in the book because it doesn't belong to me anymore like that way, you know. And for me, it's more like I just say this in an interview. I this is very distant for me, but at the same time, it's very close because like a bridge between people, other people, like the comprehension of feelings of, of other people in other language, for example. So this is very emotional. This session, I mean, is very emotional for me because it's a connection with human beings. So for me, I am very respectful about that. What happened with the book that in that way. In the other hand, talking about how to um, talk with my publisher, I have in Mexico. I have the same editor since I'm 51 now. I have the same editor since I was 21, and he is like my brother because I hate him and I love him, and it goes both ways. And what I learned is that he has a very difficult work, and uh, anyone that works like teaching or editing, working with books, it has they have a very difficult work. So I tried not to intervene. I tried to put the things there and respect the work of other people. So I don't think I'm very difficult with not translator, editors, etc. Some look what I think is when I give a book out is no longer mine, so I keep correcting a copy for myself. Sometimes in my mind, sometimes in my laptop, but I don't touch the work from the people.
Cool. Yeah.
I was wondering if you're working on anything now, like what your new current project is.
Yes, well, I used to work in like 2 or 3 projects at the same time, and I like to accumulate the process. So I just uh, just end poetry book, and I'm working in the last detail of this. And the second part is I did 11 lectures about the craft of writing, and now I'm working with I did it with no text, just talking, and then we recorded it and transcribed it, and I'm working like to make an essay around questions about the process of writing. That's the 2 projects that I'm working on like 2 years ago. I'm at the end. And what I'm working in narratives now is I'm working in a novel. It's not auto fiction, but it's based in a personal experience. Um, 4 years ago, I was in a rehab process, a very complex rehab process, and I was in a clinic for 3 months, and I'm trying to recover the process and the connection of this process with, um, yes, like the collective process of trying to be good. I'm working with teams of mental health too, um, and I'm now. One day, let me tell you this very quickly. One day I wanted to interview uh, next world champion boxing, Manuel Marquez, and I thought I might learn something about boxing and try to train a little bit. And the result is that I'm working. I go to boxing classes, and I'm very obsessive and tough. So I lost like 40 kilos. And I'm trying to learn how to box. I'm writing a book about how boxing could be a process of I don't know how to put it. Like yes, mental health, but also a self-punishing and a discipline and a spiritual process.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. I have a question. It's not directly related to song, but you mentioned Garcia Marquez earlier, and I was just like that just made me wonder who your biggest literary influences are, or like a specific genre or time period, or other authors that inspire your writing or that you just really enjoy.
Do you mean writers that I'm sorry, I can't didn't
That
hear it well.
inspire you or influence your work, or that you just enjoy reading their work? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, yes. Thank you. Well, I have a very complicated and personal relationship with Garcia Marquez precisely because I don't like how it is uh, how the world reads his work. I think there are a lot of focus in the stories and the exotic, etc., and magical realism. I'm not very interested in that, but I think Garcia Marquez is a great uh, stylist. His conception of point of view is very important to me. But in that way, I like a lot Faulkner too,
Mm.
and I read a lot of uh, American writers. I have a personal relationship since I was young with Raymond Carver and um, Hemingway. I have this joke in classes, etc. I used to say to young writers, "What do you think Hemingway will will do this with this problem?" And for me, that's a quite a real and serious. Me, I was thinking how Hemingway would solve some technical problem. But that's all about tech, technique, writing technique, and there's a mm, for me the most um, the most the most profound connection is with poetry and Latin American poetry, particularly. So I think from Gabriela Mistral to Chilean poetry, particularly Gabriela Mistral, Raúl Zurita, Enrique Lin, these poets that not all of them are very famous, but for me are very important. Another voice that is very important for me is Anne Carson. Anne Carson is a great figure because for my way to see culture, because Anne Carson has this process that connects like everyday life, like the anecdote and the intimacy with high culture, with the heritage from tradition. And that connection for me from the Greeks to pop is very, very important. What works for me is not it, the, the rhetorical figure that is most important for me process of thinking and writing. Well, is oxymoron. I don't know if it's the same way. Yes, oxymoron.
Yeah.
That is this kind of metaphor from extremes, different from points like enemies. So this high culture and pop or laughing in tragedy, these connections are very important for me. Are the for me is the core of what I want to do with literature, and I think in that with Anne Carson is wonderful working with oxygen. So it's a very important figure for me, and also because she works in the um, limits of gender, and that for me the transtextual, the non-formal gender, etc., is very important too. How literature connects with society and with cultural heritage. It's I don't know if I am saying it right. For me, it's easier to say it in Spanish.
No, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think I agree. Anne Carson is a perfect example of that sort of oxymoron, but also, yeah, she reaches out to all the texts that come before her, and like she's in conversation always with them.
Yeah.
Anybody else? The last question. Well, so I wondered, do you happen to have a copy of Tombsong I wondered if you could read a tiny bit in Spanish to us from Tomb. Do you have with you there? Might have frozen.
You mean if I have a copy of the book in English?
No, in Spanish.
I have to let me go for it. I know where is it.
Okay, I just thought it would be really great if they could hear you read just like a page or something.
Okay, let me 1 second, please.
Okay.
Reminds me of the game show, Let's Make a Deal. And when they tell them to go find something, like, just a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't ready, but now I am.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't know if you want to read from the beginning or wherever you want to read from. Some of us have our copies in English, but I thought that it would just be really nice for everyone to hear you read it and read it in Spanish. Just like, I don't know, a page or 2 pages, whatever, a page, some small. It doesn't have to be that much.
Okay, you want the beginning of the book? It's okay.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Okay, this is like a small passage. in the beginning, in Spanish. De niño quería ser científico o doctor, un hombre de bata blanca. Más pronto que tarde descubrí mi falta de aptitudes. Me tomó años aceptar la redondez de la Tierra. En público fingía. Una vez en el salón, uno de tantos, que cursé la primaria en 9 escuelas distintas, expuse ante mi grupo, sin pánico escénico, los movimientos de traslación y rotación. Como indicaba el libro, representé estos procesos atravesando con mi lápiz una naranja decorada con crayón azul. Memorizaba cada cuenta ilusoria, los gajos perpetuados en actitud de giro, las horas y los días, el tránsito del sol, pero por dentro no. Vivía con la angustia orgullosa y lúcida que hizo morir desollado a manos de San Agustín a no pocos celestiales. Mamá fue la culpable. Viajábamos tanto que para mí la Tierra era un polígono de mimbres limitado en todas direcciones por los rieles del tren. Vías curvas, rectas, circulares, aéreas, subterráneas, atmósferas ferrosas pero leves, semejando una catástrofe de cine donde los hielos del polo chocan entre sí. Límites limbo como un túnel, celestes como un precipicio tarahumara, crocantes como un campo de alfalfa sobre el que los durmientes zapatean. A veces, subido en una roca o varado en un promontorio de la costera Miguel Alemán, miraba hacia el mar y creía ver vagones amarillos y máquinas de diésel con el emblema NDM traqueteando espectrales más allá de la brisa. A veces, de noche y desde una ventanilla, pretendía que las luciérnagas bajo el puente eran esas galaxias vecinas de las que hablaba mi hermano mayor. A veces, mientras dormía tirado en un pasillo metálico, abrazado a niños desconocidos, o de pie entre decenas de cuerpos hacinados que olían a sorgo fresco y sudor de 4 días, o con el esqueleto contrahecho sobre duras butacas de madera, soñaba que la forma y la sustancia del planeta cambiaban a cada segundo. Una tarde, mientras el ferrocarril hacía patio en paredón, decidí que el silbato de la locomotora anunciaba nuestro arribo al fin del mundo. Todo esto es estúpido, claro. Me da una lástima bárbara, especialmente hoy, cuando veo a mamá desguanzada e inmóvil sobre su cama de hospital, con los brazos llenos de moretones por agujas, conectada a venopax translúcidos manchados de sangre seca, transformada en un mapa químico mediante letreritos que publican la pluma Bic y con errores ortográficos la identidad de los venenos que le inyectan. Tempra de 1 gramo, ceftazidima, carabina, antraciclina, ciprofloxacino, doctorubicina, soluciones mixtas de 1 litro embosadas en bolsas negras para proteger a la ponzoña de la luz. Llorando porque su hijo más amado y odiado, el único que alguna vez pudo salvarla de sus pesadillas, el único que le ha gritado: tú ya no eres mi hijo, cabrón, tú para mí no eres más que un perro rabioso, tiene que darle de comer en la boca y mirar sus pezones marchitos a cambiarle la bata y llevarla en peso al baño y escuchar y oler con lo que ella odia el olfato, como caga, sin fuerzas, borracha de 3 transfusiones, esperando, atrincherada en el tapabocas, que le extraigan otra muestra de médula ósea. Lamento no haber sido por su culpa, por culpa de su histérica vida de viajes a través de todo el santo país en busca de una casa, o un amante, o un empleo, o una felicidad que en esta suave patria no existieron nunca, un niño moderno, uno capaz de creer en la redondez de la tierra. Alguien que pudiera explicarle algo, recetarle algo, consolarla mediante un oráculo de podredumbre racional en esta hora en que su cuerpo se estremece, ateo y miedo a morir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really great, I think, to hear it. And it's so wonderful to get to talk with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking this time. And yeah, thank you.
Okay. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Un abrazo.
Bye.
Bye.